Springtime in France as the cobbles again welcome the riders to the 95th running of the Paris Roubaix, but in all it's been around for 100 years. Hello again everybody, I'm Phil Liggett. Well, 1 year ago the winner was an Italian, his name Franco Ballerini. The memories of the day Duclos Lozal pipped him on the line, wiped away by a great victory on Roubaix Velodrome. Well, today the riders face some 50 kilometres of famous cobble roads. They all begin at Troisville. They'll finish just outside the town of Roubaix. 100 years ago, two industrialists decided they should have a race from Paris to Roubaix, and they did it. And ever since then, the riders have done battle over roads which really are made just for farm tractors and farm animals. You know, the bike riders don't like to ride Paris-Roubaix, but my goodness me, those that win it become very famous indeed. The big names like Miguel Indurain and Tony Rominger, they don't come to this race. They save their energies for the big tours. We look here to men like Ballerini to win again, or men like Shaun Yates riding this race for the very last time. These last 4 years, he's always finished in the top 15. And remember, this is the race too to experiment on equipment, when the riders put rock shocks on, when they ride those ultralight frames which they hope won't break over the hell of the north. And to celebrate 100 years at Paris-Roubaix, a gold-plated cobblestone awaits the winner at Roubaix. Perhaps one such man could be Tom Steels of Belgium. Tom, you're the star of Belgium this year with two big classic wins. Now, how about Paris-Roubaix?
Yeah, it's my first one, so we're gonna look how it goes. Huh? It's a very difficult race. It's almost 50 kilometers of pavé, so we're gonna see how it goes. Today I'm gonna help. I'm gonna help Ballerini on Museo, and then afterwards we're gonna see how it ends for me. Yeah?
One thing's for sure, he won't be helping his rival, Fabio Baldato, second to Roubaix in 1994, second this year in the Tour of Flanders. And there's Hendrik Redant. Hendrik, you know all about the sadness of Paris-Roubaix, because when you've had that flat tyre in 1991, you had a lead of about 30 seconds, didn't you?
Even more. I counted on the video and it was 50 seconds at 12 kilometers of the finish, so I had a lot of luck of winning it, but yeah, like you say, there's a lot of sadness of it if you puncture. But that's Paris-Roubaix, that's a special race. So,
I mean, can you still remember how you felt when you knew your tyre was down?
Oh, I felt that my world was coming down on my head. Everything collapsed and my morale was finished because I got a wheel, but it was the wrong one. I got a front wheel instead of a back wheel, so it took more than 1 minute. The second group passed me. I just managed to get to the front, but it's finished and the race is gone.
Let's hope Shaun Yates has better luck. The last 4 years you've had a top 15 finish. You're the second best ever Englishman to take part in this event. Do you feel any pressure today because everybody says you can win?
I feel pressure myself, you know, so I know this is a good race for me, and you know, as I've shown the last few years, I can be up there, so it's hard. I'm not used to having pressure myself. I know I can do it physically, but it's just a question of staying out of trouble early on, which means, you know, you always have to be at the front every time you hit the pavé, because there are a lot of guys who can't ride the pavé, but still who, you know, want to be at the front anyway, and you can get messed up pretty bad with those guys, so you have to stay out of trouble.
Now the first pavé starts at Troisville. I mean, how do you ride your race to that point? Is there a big battle to reach the pavé at the head of the peloton?
It's a major battle. I mean, you know, first 80 kilometres, you just sit there easy in the bunch, and then 20 kilometres before the first pavé, the fight starts, and you know, if you don't fight, you're not at the front, so you just have to fight, and you have to keep going until the last meters before that section of pavé to, you know, to keep your place. And you know, sometimes I get there in the top 10, sometimes I get boxed at the last minute, and you can lose in the last 100 meters, you can lose 50 places, so you just have to be very persistent.
Now on the pavé, Shaun, how do you ride them? I mean, what sort of gears do you turn on the pavé?
I use the biggest gear possible, and you know, that's why this race suits me, because I'm good on the pavé, because I normally push pretty big gears. You know, you sit back in the saddle and hands on the top of the handlebars and just push a big gear, and you know, with the rock shocks and the nice tires we have, not so, you know, much pressure, and you can float across.
All right, Shaun, everybody wants you to ride well today. The best of luck.
Thank you very much indeed, Phil.
And the man fueling up is Johan Museeuw. Johan, you've had two very good classics in Belgium, but you haven't quite had the luck to win. But Paris-Roubaix, your luck may change, no?
Could you speak? I try. I hope I have luck today, because you need luck. My condition is good. but in Flanders I had not so very lucky day. And you need in Paris Roubaix a lot of lucky. So I hope today I have good legs and a little bit of lucky.
But you have such a strong team, you know, so many riders on your team can win Paris Roubaix. How do you decide who will lead the team?
We see in the final and then we talk. Now it's too early to say something. Normally you have 3 leaders, me, Ballerini and Taffy. But you never know how the race go. So everybody can win from our team. So we shall see in the race and in the final.
Lovely, thanks Johan very much. Museo third last year, and here are the riders on the line, 184 of them, among them George Hincapie of Motorola. George, you're starting at the front. Are you going to finish at the front?
Let's hope. I hope so. My legs are feeling good. You know, there's a lot of luck involved, but yeah, I feel great. So let's hope that I finish up close to the front.
It's your third shot at Paris Roubaix, and you've always liked this race, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I love this race. I mean, it's a race that I think about all year. You know, all winter training, I think about Paris Roubaix, and today it's finally come. So let's hope it's a good day.
Are you happy with the weather?
Yeah, I mean the rain is good also because it weeds out a lot of the riders. But you know, I guess it's not bad that I'm not freezing cold now, so it's okay.
So the stage is set for the 94th running of Paris Roubaix, 100 years on since the first event. We join the action on good roads here as 4 riders are now making the way towards Valenciennes and the dreaded Forest of Arenberg. And these 4 leaders in the Gant colours is Laurent Desbiens. And it looks as though we have another sharp attack going immediately off the front of the big peloton. In that front group, we've got Johan Museo, and that is a surprise. Eric Zabel, the sprinter from the German Telekom team, and Museo's teammate, Wilfried Peters. There is Johan. And everybody surprised. He stuck his nose out front quite so early on in the event. Peters also taking close line with his team leader, Eric Zabel, the sprinter. Won a stage of the Tour de France at Charleroi last year. And the other rider who has now bridged the gap here is Marco Serpellini, the young man who had his first ever road race win this season. And so Serpellini up there as well. The gap is not big, but this has been a very, very active start to Paris-Roubaix. All the riders talking about the casual approach to the first cobblestones at Troisville, which come at around 100 kilometres covered. Well, it wasn't the case today. There was an attack today. 21 riders went clear after only 25 kilometres of racing. That's some 15 miles. And this has caused now a prompt reaction from the field. But one man who knows all about the Forest of Arenberg and how dangerous it is my co-commentator Paul Sherwen. He's there.
Well, you're right, Phil. This is one of the most dangerous sections of Paris Roubaix. And I remember back in 1985, the last time I came down here in anger. In fact, you have to really take a lot of risks to get into the top 10 to come through that little gate at the top of this Forest of Arenberg. It really is critical because not only is this the area where the cars are so far behind, sometimes up to 2 or 3 minutes behind. If you have a flat tyre on this section, you can be totally out of the race. This section of the Forest of Arenberg is not necessarily where a rider is going to win the race, but you can certainly lose it along here.
And Paul Sherwen, the modest man he is, but I can tell you he once finished third in the amateur Paris-Roubaix, which covers more or less the same route, only a shortened version of the professional one. Now we're heading to sector cobblestones 14, the entry to Arenberg, where Paul Sherwen was standing about 48 hours before the riders came here. A long empty road then, but look at it now. This is one of the biggest crowds I've seen in the forest, and you will see them very shortly. There are tens of thousands of people here. And the breakaway is in there first, but only just, and we're going to have a job spotting them through the dust here. The old Paris-Roubaix of mud and water seems to have passed us by in favour of spring-like summer conditions and dusty conditions at that. Olaf Ludwig of the Telekom team leading the charge into the forest. So the tough man from what used to be East Germany has got to the front in the battle for selection as they enter this very narrow road. The cobblestones here are very broken up indeed. Normally no traffic allowed in the Forest of Arenberg. There are gates at either end, or barriers really, to stop the cars coming in under normal circumstance. They were opened up just the day before the race so the team cars could go through and check out the route. The riders now diving for the comparatively smoother edges of the route, which is all on grass and hidden stones, of course. And that looks like the familiar style of Eric van der Arden, former champion of Belgium and indeed former winner of Paris Roubaix, setting the pace at the front. And this is the only event where they use motorcycles to carry spare wheels, and the tempo here being set tremendously well by the telecom team. And Eric Zabel has been dropped by the breakaway. We caught a glimpse of him looking over his shoulder. He's going to get swept up, I think, very rapidly now by this fast advancing peloton. This is where they feel the race is about to begin. In the Forest of Arenberg, we've still got Debian, Serpellini. I think they've also been split off from the lead group. Zabel here is dancing over the cobblestones, searching for a smooth stretch of road. Forlorn hope is that. And there's the little group. The field behind is still very much together, but they're all going to come back. That is, in fact, Zabel setting the pace here. Museo is the rider just behind him. Marco Serpellini is last man of that small group. Peters is there, Debian is there, but so too, very shortly now, led by Eric van der Arden, the whole peloton are going to be there. The face of van der Arden down there, who's been over these cobblestones many, many times in a long and outstanding career. And this, the first big test of the day, and an awful lot of riders seem to have passed it. No reports of any of the favourites being left at the first fence today in Paris-Roubaix. They're all grimacing and trying to peer through the dust at the wheel in front. Just look at this crowd. Great celebrations on both days of the race. Yesterday we had a lot of celebrations. We met a lot of former winners. There was in fact a big party the night before this race. A lot of winners were feted by the organisation in the town hall at Compiègne. There's a huge spread laid on for everybody at the other end in Roubaix. And Sean Yates is in there. Just caught a glimpse of him in Team Motorola colours. Already looking rather dirty, so he's been following one or two wheels pretty closely over the early stretches of cobblestones. And just look at these riders here, the faces on them now as they just hang on to what they've got rather than try to gain an inch. Heading towards the exit now of the Forest of Arenberg. Zabel was the man who was first out, but only just. The field was closing right in. So that was Wallers. And you can see now there is Zabel, and their number 4 is Johan Museu. They've all been swept up. The race has come back together again now. I don't know how many riders are in this group, but I don't think anything like the whole field at the moment. It's interesting to note, though, that Johan Museu has been very, very active right from the gun here. Debian, Serpellini, Zabel. They're trying to go alone. This is the town of Wallers. We'll be turning sharp right and heading on to the next section of cobbles very, very shortly. Now the cavalry is reforming as they scramble out of the forest onto this flat road, just in time to be beaten to death again when they make a right turn here. Debian, the GAN team are having a great season this year, spearheaded by the British rider Chris Boardman. On to the next sector of Pavé. And it looks as though Debian, the Frenchman, sitting on the grass a little bit. I don't blame him. Just behind him is Eric Zabel, the sprinter. Very much a candidate for victory here, if he gets half a shot at it. He's an awful long way to go, of course. The race has only covered something like 140 kilometers. the sun making this a glorious day to remember 100 years of the Paris Roubaix. In the early years, they used to use bicycles, and then following that, motor cars to pace the riders to Roubaix. That's all died. Then they did half of it as far as Beauvais, and then they finally stopped it altogether in the early 1900s, and then made the riders race the whole distance unassisted. It's not so long ago since they took that railway bridge down, actually, because I remember it being there about 10 years ago. Riders squeezing through the gap, turning sharp left, and that looks like Vyacheslav Ekimov in the left of our picture, and there's a little group getting away here too. Baldato looks as though he might be up in this group. Second in the Tour of Flanders last week. And the ever-present man in the red jersey, he seems to find his way to the front of every classic race, and that is André Schmil. But look at the Mappé boys. We've got 4 of them up here now, and they're setting the pace, and they're just looking for no help from anybody. The 4 of them who are going, and the little man trying to tag on. It looks like we've gone back to about 1905 when we've got 4 riders pacing André Schmil over the cobblestones here. The crouch figure of Ekimov trying to get across the gap. There's a tremendous speed over this early section of the race today. This is going to crack the field if they can keep it up. Debian, Zabel, Serpellini, they've caught them up. So we're now looking at the head of Paris-Roubaix here. Ballerini is one of the Mappés, so too is Bortolami, and I think the other man who's come up is Andrea Taffi. And they're going straight by the breakaways. They brought Museo back into the thick of it. Ballerini, the big man. Bortolami third in line. And Taffi, I think it is, setting the pace. And there's the last one to be caught, Laurent Debian. The Gan rider looking down, and all he can see, he must be thinking he's already hit the wall, seeing all the same coloured jerseys, one after another go by him. Now the Mappé boys seem to have organised themselves at the front, but there's a lot of riders latched on from the back. Schmil is a very crafty rider. He doesn't do a lot of work until he feels the time has come to put his weight behind the action, but he always stays around 4th or 5th wheel and watches everybody else. And there are the selection at the moment anyway. Around about 20 riders have got themselves up into this leading group. And one of the riders who's come up, I've noted, was Francis Moreau, the former World Pursuit champion. But it's all Mappé. They're setting the pace here, and they're keeping the pressure on. The advantage, of course, if you're at the front, you can see your way across these cobblestones. Very nasty edges to this particular section. There's Schmil, just putting his head down and gripping the wheels. And again, 4 riders going clear. And it looks to me as though it's Taffi who's setting the pace, trying to turn away from the field. Schmil won the Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago when he actually lived in the nearby town of Roubaix. So it was something of a local hero when he got to the other end. He's moved now. Here we have Bortolami. Shot to the fore a couple of years ago when he picked up the World Cup. And he was only a second away from taking the yellow jersey in the Tour de France 2 years ago as well. I was rather pleased he didn't, because on that occasion it deservedly went to Sean Yates, the only time in his career he ever pulled on the leader's yellow jersey in the Tour. So Bortolami is here doing a lot of work at the moment. Ballerini, number 1, finally getting his win in this race last year, having lost it so narrowly to Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle when he thought he'd won previously. He admits he loves this event. He's taking part in the action. Serpellini passes through our picture. Looks as though life's getting a bit tough for the young man, but he has a great future ahead of him. And here is, well, this is Bart Laine, who's also doing a lot of work up here. One of the few Belgians on the team. No sign of Tom Steels or Ludwig Willems, but Bart Laine, it seems, is the rider doing a lot of work in this front group as well. Well, this lead group has got a little bit large again, and so Ballerini's decided to go to the back of it and check it out. About 17 riders down there, and it looks as though they've all decided to take a little bit of time out for food and drink before they get onto the next stretch of cobblestones. Anybody with a chance should come back now, because it's not going to be long before they start going again. Still, the Mapei riders are at the front. Little Vyacheslav Ekimov is here as well. Francis Moreau. Well, we've still got something like 27 kilometers of pavé still ahead of the riders, as Bart Laine more than plays his part here to keep this little group going. There's a crash there. Somebody shut off at the back end of the group. It's a Brescia rider who's gone off the corner, and this is how he did it. Ouch! That's what you call sitting down on the job. And the rider, in fact, was one of the Brescia lad. It was Claudio Carmine who went down. And here he comes. Hopefully he's going to get back on. No time to feel the pain, of course, in Paris Roubaix, and there's plenty of different types of pain to wipe away the thought of that one anyway, because once you get onto the cobblestones, you just simply get rattled to death. Now, once on the cobbles again, the pressure has gone on, and again, just look at this. The Mapei team once more putting on the pressure. There's at least 4 of them up here, and I think there are possibly 5. 4 in the lead. There's another one at least in the pack behind. This little stretch of pavé is 2.4 kilometers long, so it's a long stretch, this one. This is between Tilloy and Sars-et-Rosières, sector 11 of the 22 sectors. They have a king of the pavé competition. The first 3 riders to leave each sector get points. The man with the most points is the champion of the day on the pavé. And again, the Mapei boys have torn this breakaway to shreds. What a pity the team time trial has gone in the World Championships, because they could have put their own team in and possibly have won it in this new era of fully open cycling. That is an enormous gap. Well, I think this is Tafi, Bortolami, Museo and Ballerini who have gone. And the 2 riders they're trying to get on, certainly one that was Schmil, and I think the other is Ekimov. The 2 strong riders trying to bridge the gap. And this is Bortolami, and just ahead of him is Museu. The other one is Tafi. The man who is missing, and it's just happened out of sight of our camera, is Ballerini, and he's punctured. I don't know whether our ground cameras are going to pick him up, but he's just gone off the back with a flat tire, which is something of a disaster, because Ballerini, the winner last year, a known strongman. If these boys, oh, a little bit close, that one, Johan. Oh, it's not Johan, it's Tafi. Tafi, who's wrenched his foot out there before to save himself from falling, now picks up his pedal again, and he's got a little bit of work on his hands, and it looks as though his teammates are just carrying on the time trial. His back wheel just bouncing around over those cobbles as he churns. This is how you don't take the right-hand bend in Paris Roubaix. His back tyre just caught on the edge of those cobblestones, and he couldn't get his bike back onto the road quick enough. He thought he was going down, But a fine piece of riding by Andrea Taffi. He brings him back up to the other two, Bortolami and Museu. They turn these big gears. This is the pursuit. Ekimov and Schmil. We haven't seen Ballerini, but take my word on it, the man has gone with a puncture. These two have recognised that this Paris Roubaix could well be being decided early on this year, and they're going to try and catch the Express Mappe, which is moving clearly ahead on this long sector of pavé. Almost 2.5 kilometres of it, and they've chosen to really drill home the rivet. Very narrow road, thankfully dry, but very dusty and a bit painful on the eyes. And all of these people here, and yet you can only see 1 or 2 cars parked in the farmers' fields. The majority have walked across those fields to come to the start line to watch the race. And the great news, by the way, while we're looking at the cobblestones, is that fears that we would lose all of these cobblestones in the years upcoming seem to have a little less worry now, because in fact they are repairing some of the cobbled roads, and they're repairing them with cobblestones, which is excellent. New stretches of pave being put down instead of tarmac, and covering the road completely into a smooth surface. So this is great news for the organisers, and they're feeling a lot more relieved now. 100 years on, that Paris-Roubaix might well go on to see the 2nd century. But this is an amazing scene in front of us now. They split up Ekimov and Schmil as we go back up to Taffi, the superior super domestique of Mappe in the classics, and the man who's been listed as a possibility. This is Ballerini, who's coming back through after his puncture, picking up Schmil. Probably riding a little bit on an adrenaline here, having been up there with his team. He will have talked to his team. He knows what the day's plan is. I wish we all did. And now he's got to get back up there, because quite clearly it's not... Oh, he's gone again. He has punctured again. Well, I can't believe it, but Ballerini has gone again. He's very, very anxious for more assistance quickly. There's 2 bikes alongside him, but not the one he wants to see, carrying the spare wheels from the Mavic team bike. And he's going as long as he can, but he knows he's got a flat tire. He must have felt the rim hit the road, and it's his front wheel this time. Well, Paris-Roubaix is its own speciality. This is all part of the fortunes of this great race. And these great riders have the power in those big legs to recover from such misfortune, but this is the 2nd time now in just a couple of kilometres that poor old Franco has got a flat. They called back the Mavic motorbike, so they radioed up for it. You're not allowed to turn and go towards the race under any circumstance. Neither indeed are the riders, by the way. So the Mavic machine just had to stop on the left and await the arrival of Ballerini. And that's what the motorbike was telling Ballerini in the blue jersey. He told Ballerini to keep going because the service was waiting for him ahead. Good wheel change too. Well done to the Mavic team. Meanwhile, back up at the team time trial, Johan Museu having his dinner. This is a man who has, over his career, won 6 World Cup races. He is a man for the 6-day races as well on the track, and he is a man for the single-day races on the road. Very popular rider in Belgium, Johan Museu. Oh, come on, Franco. Let's hope he can bridge the gap, because here's a rider who always has this love-hate relationship with Paris-Roubaix, but he loves the event, he admits it. He's pedalled very smoothly back to André Schmil. Schmil is sort of caught in the middle of no man's land now. He's pottering along here, trying to get up to the 3 in the lead. While behind, and not very far behind, there's a general regrouping of riders who are trying to bring him back. Andrea Taffi, Johan Museu, licking his lips and working very hard. He's been in the action all day today. And Bortolami, Gianluca, And this is Vyacheslav Ekimov. And he's not looking too good at this stage, puffing and blowing a little bit, Vyacheslav. And there's still an awful long way to go, and in fact takes a look across at the Mavic team car. I'm wondering, he doesn't appear to have a mechanical problem. Maybe he's just checking out to see if there's any sign of anybody coming up to help him here. Back up with the leaders. Bortolami. No big results yet this year, but he plays his part in the #1 team in the world, very much indeed. They've come here with so many men who could win this race. It's quite a problem for the team, I would think, deciding just who can win it. We've got 3 of them there now, and if Ballerini can get back, we've got 4. And in fact, Ekimov has got back here to Lotto's André Schmil and to Mappe's Ballerini. So now there's a bit of firepower if Ekimov isn't too tired. He doesn't look very good to me, but if he isn't too tired, then this great time trial rider, he flicks his left arm there to call through André Schmil, but he's in no hurry to come through. So Ekimov looks over his shoulder to see if there's any chance, and Schmil is coming through. Ballerini just tapping Ekimov there, a little indication he's not going to work with these two. The excuse, of course, is his 3 men are up front. So poor old Ballerini is in a cleft stick now. He either crosses the gap by himself, or he sits behind these two, and we'll just have to hope that they cross the gap with him, because certainly he can't endanger the men up front, and he would certainly be doing that if he tried to take especially Schmil across. So Ballerini, 2 punctures we know of already today. And he's going to sit there and just watch the action. Well, there is a nice gesture anyway. He can't help him, but at least he'll give him a drink. And that's the great thing about this sport of cycling, you know. The rivals really aren't racing each other most of the time. They're just achieving their own ambitions and getting on with being great sportsmen. And Ballerini there, they know he can't work. They won't even ask him to, because they understand the game of professional cycling. This is Orsi here, very sharp right-hand bend for the 3 leaders, a huge crowd. And I think that was a Danish flag there waiting to be waved. And a service call. Yes, indeed, this is Bortolami, I think. No, it's not. This is Johan Museu. Museu is anxious for a quick service. Front wheel has gone. As he went round that bend, the 2 teammates have gone as well. Well, they can't say that Mappe are exactly having their own way. They may be dictating the pace, but they're having their fair share of problems up front. They lost Ballerini, they nearly lost Taffy, now they've lost Museu. And somebody else has come up to the back here of the Ballerini threesome. And it looks as though it's a Gaviz rider. It could well be Zanini who's come up. Huh. Well, Ekimov didn't see the arrow quite clearly there, and he went off the course. Let's have a look. There he is in the gutter. The crowd loving every minute of it, because this is Paris Roubaix. A nice push and plenty of willing hands to get him back into the action. And there's the Belgian outpost as we go through, on the back end of a lorry which I think is selling potatoes. Well, this little group behind has swollen a little bit. We've got 1 more rider up here now, and I'm pretty sure it's Aina. And the duo at the front, Bortolami and Taffy, in that order. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't ease off for Museu. They seem to have taken the decision very quickly. A little concern on the face of Taffy as to where he is. We'd like to know as well, by the way. But they're keeping the pressure on. 2 Italians leading Paris Roubaix. And not a common sight for sure. And this is the Schmil group, and there's no sign there of Museu. Zanini is the rider in this break. I think I said Zaina a little bit earlier, but it's Zanini. We still have the same riders getting on with the action here. They're still working. They're looking as though they are concerned about the whereabouts of Museu. Perhaps they've just let him make the effort before they start to wait for him. Bortolami and Taffy are looking over the shoulders for their punctured team leader. And now the team car is up with them. So they'll have been given their orders. Let's see if they ease up or whether they get on with it. Let's have a look down the road first of all. It's an awful long way back to Johan Museu, which means it's even further back to that chasing quartet of Zanini, Ekimov, Schmil and Ballerini. There he is, punching that huge gear as he tries to get back up with his two teammates. At least he knows now. They know he's coming. Now they know he's coming. I think they'll ease off a little bit for him. These are the four. Ballerini, still the ticket collector at the back. At the front is Zanini. Well, these three riders aren't making much of an impression at all. They're around about 1 minute behind those three at the front, and they are three at the front now because they're coming up together. Bortolami waits for Johan and takes him back up to Taffy. Nice piece of smooth road, and the riders are now all together again at the front. Well, now, as I say, with a gap of around about 1 minute, then they can once more get back into that team time trial mode. What would it have been if they still had Ballerini with them? Then they would have had a difficult decision to have made with the Johan Museu, whether to wait or leave him. They made no such, had no such qualms about leaving behind Ballerini when he punctured early on. And unlucky for Ballerini, they weren't really very far ahead of the group. So the decision had to be, I suppose, leave Ballerini. Jean-Luc Van den Broek, the team director of Lotto, and the one man who always does him proud in the classics, Andre Schmil, and he's looking a little bit frustrated here. They are not really making any progress. There's a group falling behind which we can't see, with Moncassin in and Moreau and Debian among others. It's only a small group, about 5 riders. We're heading up towards Bercy here. And while the 3-man team time trial goes clear, Ballerini has got to be feeling that little bit frustrated and wishing if only these three would get across and put him back in the action. He can't do a thing about it. So Stefano Zanini is in that back group along with the other three and pulling his weight, but they're making no impression at all. World Cup man, Gianluca Bortolami, grimacing and looking around at the same time. He's looking actually very sharp indeed today, Bortolami. He's a rider that really only came into everybody's notice in 1994 when he landed the World Cup and got 6 good victories that year. It all started off in his stage win in the Tour de France, and then he won the Leeds Classic World Cup event, went from there to win the Grand Prix of Zurich and then get second in Paris Tours, and before you know it, he was the World Cup winner. Well, they're now telling us on Radio Tour that this group has now got 2 minutes gap, and that is an awful long way. I didn't think it was quite that much. But these are the 4 chasers. Well, 3 chasers and 1 man watching everything going on, Ballerini. Stefano Zanini doing a little bit of work. He's just dropped back into 2nd place here, just ahead of Schmil rather. And the pressure being applied on the cobblestones now by Ekimov. Ekimov realizing this group is really going nowhere, while behind the chasers also split the field into ribbons. This is a most unusual pattern to Paris-Roubaix, the way it has gone to, and it's all been done because of the hard riding by Mappe, who haven't really employed any tactics other than to go out front and ride as fast as they possibly could with all of their men. There's that back group I was telling you about of 5, and Moncassin is in there, and Moreau and Debian, who's been at the front also. He was into the Forest of Arlenberg with Zabel, remember, in that breakaway of 4. But then so too was Johan Museu. I think also there Brian Home and Marco Milesi. I think that makes up the 5 in that group at the moment. And they are closing in on the Andre Schmiel breakaway. This is Zanini, number 28. They won't go much farther over to the left on this grass. They'll be down that ditch. Zanini, you see, laying a couple of lengths off, showing very much the Italian temperament here. Not at all confident on these cobblestones. The secret is riding, stay reasonably relaxed on the bike, but hold on to those handlebars very tightly indeed, because hit a cobble in the wrong angle, and your hands quite literally will jump off the handlebars and down you go. You also ride the biggest gear you can pedal. And they found a little bit of smooth tarmac in the middle of these cobbles, and Zanini comes back onto the group and the back wheel of Ballerini. Well, at least they can talk to one another, both being Italian. And in the group behind, I can hear that Francis Moreau is in a spot of bother. He's hanging on to the 5-man chase group now. But they are coming back to this group, apparently. And if they do, our cameras will pick them up. Very difficult to cover, as you can imagine, Paris-Roubaix. Even though our motorbike riders do a magnificent job, they have the same problems as everybody else. That's getting through on these narrow roads. If they get trapped behind the main field, well, it's a long time before they get back to the action because of the following team vehicles. One puncture and all of the vehicles must stop. There's no way around. Still riding very confidently at the front, these 3 riders. And this race for the first 2 hours today was going quicker than the event record set by Peter Post back in 1964. And Post recorded a time of 45.125 kilometers an hour. Almost 28 miles an hour. And it hasn't really been approached ever since. But they were well over that for the first couple of hours. It's starting to fall back now, and I don't think it'll be a record. But it's going to be one of the fastest Paris-Roubaix we've ever seen. And it's all down to the Mappe boys and that very quick start when 21 riders went clear early on. The chase to bring them back caused a reaction which never ceased. These are the 4 chasers, making absolutely no impression on the 3 breakaways as they negotiate these very tight corners. Used to be strewn in mud. These days, with our changing climate, it seems we have to suffer just the dust. And the end of another sector of Pavé. And oh my goodness me, this is Bortolami who's gone now. Another man in the leading group who has gone with a flat tyre. Bortolami, now what will the decision be? They didn't wait for Museu, so I don't think they're going to wait for Bortolami either. We've had Ballerini go, we've had Museu go and come back. Well, we've now got Bortolami gone, and will he come back? This is Bercy, the town of Bercy here, and that's where Bortolami punctured. But look down there, because they are waiting for Gianluca Bortolami. They obviously value the strength of that man. Museo taking the chance to take on board a little bit of extra fuel. Taffy is the rider just tapping over the pace. So they are going to wait for the return of Bortolami. They feel they have the time to do that. The latest time check I've got is 1 minute and 3 seconds and not 2 minutes. So they are coming back, those four. Now then, there's a convenient mechanical problem and the chance for the team car to give him a helping hand. Wasn't too long though, and he's making a bit of a meal of it, but it seems all right now. And Bortolami rapidly coming back up to the leaders. So it was another good change. It was their own team car that did the change this time, because with 3 men in the lead, I guess you should come and take a look after them. And a good time to take on more drinking bottles as well and load up. So Patrick Lefebvre, who will be handing out the food and drink, team manager of Mapei, now has got his 3 riders back together again. What a position to be in Paris Roubaix. The finest classic race in the world, and 3 riders on the same team setting the pace. And they're riding with such almost impudence. They're flatting, they're getting back, they're almost falling off, and yet they're still holding off what is a totally shattered Paris Roubaix field right now. And the gap has gone up to 1 minute 20 seconds on the 4 chasers, and it's 2 minutes back to 3 riders at the moment: Brian Home, Francis Moreau and Marco Milesi. So the chasers have lost, among others, Desbiens and Frédéric Moncassin. And now this is back to group number 2 on the road. Stefano Zanini. He's just about to go through. Oh no, he's not, because the Lotto man, Schmil, has got it first. And you know, Zanini really doesn't like these cobblestones, does he? He likes to be last man and sit off the back of the group and find his own way through. André Schmil putting on the pressure. Ekimov also applies the pressure every time they hit the bad roads. Ballerini rides his own course. He must have heard me talking. Time to get back in line. While Stefano just keeps them at a respectable distance. It's not easy doing it this way, but it's obviously the way he's happy. And when he finds himself getting too close, he goes to the other side of the road. I suppose there's a lot of sense attached to that. He wants to see his own way through the stones, because if you make a mistake and sometimes do try to follow the man in front, then you go into a trap and down you go. Sharp right turn here, a slowing, but oh, and the best way's over the grass for Ekimov. And looking at the 4 of them now, they're more concerned with survival here, I think, than actually getting across to those leading 3. I wonder if they're aware of the problems that have been experienced by the 3 boys up front. They must know that they've closed the gap a little bit, although it's starting to go out again. Minute 20, the last check we had. And Home, Moreau, Milesi are still trying to get on terms. They're about 30 seconds behind these 4. Well, maybe we haven't got the same roads that we had when this race was first held back in 1896, but it's certainly a great race. And Paris-Roubaix, inspired by the 2 industrialists, because they appreciated at the time, by the way, the big long distance races, Bordeaux to Paris and the Paris-Brest-Paris. They were created back in 1891, and neither of them sadly going anymore. although you can certainly ride Paris-Brest-Paris as a randonnée. That's a touring ride, and as you know, touring rides very often turn out to be little bike races amongst very enthusiastic amateur riders. Well, dust replacing the mud, but you know, you get your wheels in that dust, which can often be an inch or so thick, and it is like riding on sand and very difficult to control the machine. Well, it looks as though the road disappeared completely here. Hardly a cobblestone. The flat horizon of northern France. Schmil, Ballerini, just sitting there. Ekimov, and then the man setting the pace again now is Zanini. He prefers the smooth road, and the riders don't seem to chastise him, and he disappears to the back on the cobbles. Ballerini looks so good, doesn't he? He's harnessing his strength and must be feeling very, very, very frustrated, because he would love to go up to that leading breakaway, as we have just now done. And looking down here at Andrea Taffi, Johan Museu, the rider who never has won Paris Roubaix, and yet he's won so many of the world's great races. A professional back in 1988, Johan. Just one win in his first pro season. But 2 years after that, we knew just how good he was. He picked up 11 wins in 1990, including 2 stage wins in the Tour de France, in which he just got pipped for the green points jersey. And he rode Paris-Roubaix and finished in 12th place that year. And there they are. One top Belgian rider in the breakaway, the other top Belgian rider, which is the Belgian champion of the moment, Wilfried Nelissen. Well, if you have our coverage of Ghent-Wevelgem, and I hope you do, we had that terrible crash, which wasn't on television because it happened after the, I think it was the 9th kilometre of the race in Ghent-Wevelgem, where Nelissen crashed and broke his leg, and very badly a break it was too. Well, he's still recovering in hospital, and no doubt watching Paris-Roubaix on television. Now, at last, we're getting a look at the third group on the road, and this rider here is Francis Moreau and Marco Milesi. And Brian Holm is the German Telecom rider. They are closing in quite rapidly now. Brian seems to have a little bit of resurgence in his career. He's moving back up into the front line again. Well, we're heading up to zone 7 of the Pavé now. And there we are. In fact, the leaders have just entered it. This is the stretch between Atiche and Wattistad. Another 2 kilometers of Hell of the North. And the Mappe boys continue to ride their own race. Just look at them. These 3 riders, they've never been told, to my knowledge, what the time gap is for some considerable time now. And they're being held by this foursome. They're still around about a minute, 10 seconds, something like that. So the yo-yo is in place, but neither group is going away or getting closer. And all of the time, the chasers are just nibbling away at these 4. We could well have 7 chasers shortly. Ekimov and Schmil. And it's no good Ballerini following the wheel of Zanini there, because otherwise he'd be way behind the other 2, because Zanini just won't ride close on the cobbles. And Ballerini just realised it too. Now here's the chase down here. This is Brian Holm. And Brian himself not looking too happy on this rather pleasant stretch of road. You can imagine what it would be like if it was raining today and this was all mud and water, because once you've got the water on the road, you don't know how deep the holes are when you ride into the puddles. And these riders are all on the same stretch of cobbles now, which is another over 2 kilometre stretch. And here's Brian. Little bit lack of confidence as he comes round that corner, takes it very wide and drops onto the gutters of the other side, and that cost him a few more lengths on the leaders as our motorbike zooms up to see Francis Moreau. He was a rider that Stephen Roach had a lot of time for in the early days as professionals. He thought Francis was a very good cyclist and liked him on his team, and indeed he is a good cyclist, of course, ex-champion of the world in the pursuit. Very strong man. If they leave him alone and let him settle into his rhythm, then he won't need any help to catch that group. Moreau, Malaysia home. Zanini, Ekimov, Schmil and Ballerini tipping a little bit of a wheel turn at the front. Interesting as to why he's done that. Maybe just doesn't want to disrupt the rhythm of these riders. And Andre just stretching his back there. And here comes Zanini, closer order as soon as he's off the cobbles. And I'm not too sure who Brian Holm is waving at here. If our camera can just peep round the corner there, we may be, I was about to say maybe, they are catching up to the back of that chase group. They are officially 47 seconds behind now, that group of Andre Schmil. So it seems that all three groups here are pedaling to their absolute limit, which is more or less locking them at the same distance apart on the road, kilometre after kilometre. Now a little word here for the Gavis rider, Zanini, and it's probably the manager saying, do try and keep up on the cobblestone, Stefano. But he's done well to read this move today, and he's got up to it, because he had to come up by himself from the back group, which he did. And here is Vladislav Ekimov, the winner of the Tour of China, to go out of last year on a very high note. He probably should have finished second, but because of the infighting with Daniel Nardello and his Mapei team, they took a time bonus off him that Nardello should have won when we raced up to the Great Wall of China. If Nardello, who finished second that day, had won that stage, which his teammate won, then that small time bonus would certainly have made sure Nardello had been the winner of the Tour of China. But that's bike racing. Nardello had to be content with second, and he wasn't, because he was very unhappy about it, while Ekimov got a great win. Well, I wonder. I did ask Johan Museo what he would do if, as the riders came to the end, there were so many men likely to be in with a chance of winning, but I wasn't envisaging a three-man team time trial. I was thinking maybe a group of 8 or 9 with a couple of strong Mapeis in it as to who they would go for to protect for the win. And Museo said, well, we wait until the final and then we'll assess it and discuss it. And I wonder if we've reached that stage yet. There's still, of course, a long way to go. And it's 1 minute and 39 seconds now, and that's probably what Jean-Luc Van den Broek is saying to Andre Schmil. They're losing ground. These three are still hanging on to try and bridge the gap. There must be stretches of road here where they now see that group ahead of them, even if it's only marked by the helicopter over their head occasionally. Roger Leger also telling Francis Moreau that they are holding the riders in front. And Francis, oh, what a marvellous rider he is when he's full of power. Marco Milesi and Brian Holm. Brian does not seem to be doing too much of the work here in chasing, and maybe he is feeling the pace. And there they are. So at last, all of the hard work, primarily done by the former World Pursuit champion Francis Moreau, is now going to bridge the gap up to the other riders. And just look at the crowd here. Superb crowd as we head towards zone 6 of the pavé. We're going to find we have 7 riders in the chase down. Francis Moreau has done his work so well, he now slips to the back and lets Marco Milesi close the final few meters to the 4 riders. We now have 7 quality men in the chase, but they have an awful lot of work to do if they're going to pick up those 3 riders, and Marco there deciding it's time to stretch his legs. Hey, Zanini indicating, come on, let's do it. Let's go one-on-one. Let's work together. And he's right, of course. Brian Holmes speaking to Milesi. And I think Milesi probably asking Brian to come and do a little bit of work as well, while the ticket collector, Franco Ballerini, reassesses and goes to the back. There's no doubt in my mind he's the strongest man in that group and can't do a thing about it. And there's the reason. 3 riders on the same team, tapping out the rhythm across the flatlands of northern France, bound for Belgium, but they'll be stopping at the border at Roubaix, still in France. In 1986, when the prize money went up from around about $1,000 for the win to something like $23,000 for the win, the race went away from the Roubaix Velodrome, downtown into Roubaix. And Sean Kelly, never a man to miss a big jackpot, was the winner then, the Irishman. But it wasn't a great success finishing downtown, so we went back to Roubaix Velodrome, and that's where we'll finish today. There is an enormous crowd waiting for this race. They're being treated to watching it on a huge screen. They know exactly what is going on. And that's what the riders look forward to. The men that come in the front groups is to that roar of appreciation by a crowd who understands what they are watching. This is Gianluca Bortolami. Onto what is very often a favoured corner for the public there when it's very bad weather, because that's where the riders tend to fall, but no such happening today. The Labrador on the right there, good job it was on a leash. It was fancying the leg of Marco Milesi, I think. Now this certainly has put a bit of racing firepower back in the race. And it looks to me as though Ballerini has been given his head here, or he's been told to try and get away if he's got the strength. Because Ballerini is putting in a superb turn here on zone 6 of the pavé. They're around about 2 minutes, so they've lost ground, and it looks as though Ballerini has decided to split the field. Zanini and Schmil are on him. Now, did I say Zanini couldn't ride the cobblestones? Well, he couldn't get much closer right now because he knows that this is a serious move by Franco Ballerini. He looks as though he's got his braces caught on the back wheel of Zanini. Schmil has also bridged the gap. 3 riders now, and look at, they've opened up. Poor old Francis Moreau did all of that work to get across with Marco Milesi and Brian Holm, and they've jettisoned them off the back again. And Ekimov too. I don't see where Milesi's got himself to at all right now. Maybe he's between the 2, or maybe we shed him completely. And it's confirmed, as the cars are now telling us, that Milesi has been dropped completely. And those 3 are also a little bit out of touch right now. And any hope we had of seeing Sean Yates of Motorola up here, well, I can also tell you that sadly Sean Yates in his last Paris Roubaix has punctured twice, and it was at the time when the splits were happening, so he's lost all chance of a big finish today, and that is really very, very sad. Museu, Bortolami, there's no sign of fatigue on these riders' faces, is there? He's almost laughing, Andrea Taffy. And well, they might. Everything going so well for them. They've had the power in those legs to overcome what problems they've experienced so far. Taffy almost crashing and the other two flatting. There's Zanini sitting right back on the saddle, long extension. Behind him, Andre Schmil. Terrific rider in the World Cup races. Ever-present danger. And Franco Ballerini, his job done, has gone back into the back seat. Certainly Ballerini has got rid of those to be, well, they might come back. They keep on trying, and if they do, perhaps Ballerini will have to go again. There's Ekimov. Never stops trying. Back to the team time trial. Bortolami, he is the strong man of this group. That was why they waited so readily when he punctured, because this man has got so much strength today. On to sector 5. And this is a little sector at Pont Thibault and Envelin. And then we go pretty quickly onto the sector 4, Siswang to Bourgel. Oh my goodness me, that was a bit of a wide one. That's a corner that's claimed many riders over the years in Paris Roubaix. It almost took down Andre Schmil there. If you get it wrong, there's nothing you can do about it. Schmil just seemed to lock up completely. That's why the crowd, you see, stand well back on that bend. They expect riders to do just what Andre Schmil did. Now he's going to have to dig deep and get back up to the chasers. The leaders are off that stretch of cobblestones. Their lead is now up again. So a little bit of overshoot for Andre Schmil, but nothing too serious in the end. They've lost a little bit of ground, these three, as well. It's at round about 1 minute 20 seconds now. Yes, Zanini. He's been dropped as well, I think. The race has split up here. And this has got to be one of the bill. And Zanini also not enjoying life on the cobbles. But he's desperately trying now to bridge a gap to get back up to the leaders. That's Ballerini in front of him. Now, what a remarkable man Ballerini is. It wasn't long ago when I said, for my money, he was the strongest in that group. Now look at him. He's seen the chance to get rid of the two riders. Andre Schmil did him a big favour. He's blown away Zanini by just powering over these cobblestones. Now, are we going to be treated to Franco Ballerini rejoining his teammates for what is probably an hour and a half or 2 hours since he was dropped by them? So out of the Pavé sector 5, and Ballerini has ridden himself away from all of his adversaries, and the only people up against him now are his own team. Those great big legs of Franco Ballerini. He looks over his shoulder to see if Zanini can come across, and I'm not sure, but Zanini's pretty hot once he gets back onto the smooth road. There the four riders regrouping at the back, with Schmil in there as well, and Ekimov also. But Franco has gone away. Well, this is an absolute and utter demonstration by the #1 team, and they certainly are proving today they are that. 4 Mappe men now out in front. Never before in the history of this race have we had 4 riders from the same team, nor indeed for that matter 3 riders from the same team take the top positions. We are indeed celebrating 100 years of Paris Roubaix. Zanini, though, I told you, he's come back well on the smooth road. He's tamed Franco. They're back together again. I wouldn't have thought that Franco would not work with his Italian rival here, because the two of them keeping away from the chasers, and Ballerini could then possibly springboard once more. He will well have recognized that Zanini doesn't like riding on the pavé. And there you see, he's saying, sit on my wheel. When he comes up, he's actually saying there to Ballerini, sit on my wheel, recover, and then come and work. And now Zanini's appreciated that and is going to work with Ballerini. The Italians are enjoying Paris Roubaix for a change, and Johan Museo, yes, he's Belgian, but he rides for the Italian team, and he's certainly enjoying it as well. Had a lot of bad luck in the Tour of Flanders, but you know, there was a lot of criticism too after the Tour of Flanders, that when Johan Museo did have that problem, which appeared to be not just his bike but also his legs on the climb of the Mur de Grammont, the cameras never showed the chase back, and yet there was a television camera with the group, and the Belgian television were openly accused afterwards of assisting Ballerini back up to the race. Now, true or false doesn't really matter. The fact was that they were accused of that, and indeed in the end Museo was back in that group and did take the group sprint for third place. But even so, I don't think anybody can deny that Museo is one of the finest single-day races in the world at the moment, and he doesn't need outside assistance either. He's also a pretty nice guy, and he's going to enjoy reading that board. 3 Mappes, a minute 14 up on a 4th Mappe and Zanini. The others are about half a minute further back, so they might well get back yet. Ballerini is 11th year as a professional, turned pro in 1986, the beginning of that season, and now he's still merged here with Zanini, just cleaning up his tyres, probably a little bit twitchy after a couple of punctures as well. But he's going to feel a little bit happier now because he's free to get on with his race. Although he's playing around with his back brake there, I was about to say, it looked as though it must be the dirt on the tyre, that he may have had a softening back tyre. But he doesn't seem too concerned. Now, this is a little bit of our look at Ballerini when he came to take on Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle. This, of course, isn't the memory that Franco Ballerini wishes to be reminded of, because this is how he lost Paris-Roubaix. Now, by all rights, he should have won this, but you know, you don't take Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle to a track finish, because Lassalle is a very good 6-day cyclist and often a winner of the Grenoble 6-day. And Ballerini was still confident here. He lay off the back wheel of Duclos-Lassalle, and then it came. Duclos-Lassalle refused to give in. Ballerini thought he'd won. It went to the photo, and the Frenchman Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle was declared the winner. Ballerini was devastated. Well, of course, his day did come in 1995, and Ballerini finally got victory in Paris-Roubaix, but not before he'd finished third in 94 and this second place here in 1993. Here's the photograph, and there you see it. Duclos-Lassalle quite clearly the winner on the inside, but Ballerini was convinced he'd won it for himself. He should have done. Still, the French are pretty happy, and so was Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle. So it's not the time of day to remind Mr. Ballerini about that defeat, but he has loved Paris-Roubaix. Second, as I say, in that victory there, or that loss there in 1993, then third in 1994. Finally got his win last year, and he's still not out of this race yet. Zanini here to help him. They could work together. Zanini hopelessly outnumbered. Ballerini could take Zanini up to these three, and they'd still outnumber him and outmaneuver him because they've got too many cards to play. This has been a superb show of defiance by the Mappe boys. Well, they're saying that the gap has come down between Ballerini and Zanini and the 3 riders in front, but they didn't say by how much. So we'll have to live with that for a few moments. That is the lone figure of Ekimov, still trying to do something here. It's been a very lonely race for all of these riders today, ever since they came out of the forest of Arenberg, because they seem to have just been riding flat out, almost minding their own business, because even though you're with a small group occasionally, you don't feel you're part of it, because you're always having to ride your own race and pick your own little slice of cobblestones. It's not like an ordinary single-day classic race where you get together and you try and work with each other. You always seem to be doing just your own thing out there. And I'm pretty sure that Patrick Lefebvre there has told the 3 Mappe boys that Ballerini is creeping his way back, but he has Zanini with him. 30 kilometers or so to go to the finish. An extraordinary team time trial. Emanuele Bombini, a little word with Stefano Zanini. Of course, no secret language here because Ballerini knows exactly what's being said. It's an advantage sometimes if it's a French rider in the break, of course, because the Italians very often will not understand the French or the speed they speak it anyway. And a little bit of a squeeze by the motorcycle there as he gets through. Zooms off to do a time check on the leaders. The group is definitely being caught by those two very, very slowly. And it's been a little bit of a regrouping here. Malaysia has come back, so too Brian Holm. Francis Moreau is there at the front. Ekimov and Schmil. So they've all tried individually to do something. They've all failed. And these three riders behind, well, they're not worried anyway what they're doing, because they're in front rather, because they're just doing this team time trial. And we've got Museo at the front at the minute. But basically, I think it is Bortolami who is the absolute star today. Ballerini, one bottle finished with and dumped unceremoniously on the gutters of the road of Paris Roubaix. We now move on to Sector 4. This is the Seaswang de Bourgel. 1.4 kilometers again, and another big crowd. Now this sector of Pavé is 25 kilometers from the finish, so the crowd here will be scuttling very quickly to their cars to try and make the velodrome before the riders. The riders never go in a direct line to the velodrome. We zigzag all over the countryside, picking out these horrible stretches of road before finally turning in towards the finish through the town of M. And then we rush down the main street into Roubaix Velodrome, where, by the way, on the approach to the velodrome this year, they've actually made the course down the central median strip, and they turn right off it into the velodrome. And we'll see that, of course, when we get into that final kilometre to the velodrome itself. I don't think there's ever been a bigger crowd. I don't think there's any more can get in the velodrome, to be quite honest. It is packed. So still Franco started to really show us his ability in 1990 when he grabbed third in Ghent-Wevelgem and fifth in the Amstel Gold Race in Holland. Then he popped up with a win in Paris-Brussels and the Grand Prix des Grand Prix of Americas, in effect, which was in Montreal, and took fourth place in the World Cup in 1990. That's when he got his confidence, and after that, he was constantly in the front rungs of the single-day classic races. Sitting upright to the right of our picture, Museu. And there's for the leaders, for the chasers also, 25 kilometers to go. They must wonder just what is happening up there by those three riders setting the pace. And it looks as though Schmil is trying to rip away on this sector of Pavé. They are now also on the same sector, Sector 4, Seaswang. Brian Holm, Ekimov, Moreau, and Malaysia. And a signal there from Bortolami. I don't know if he's punctured or whether he just wants a service car. Our camera hasn't noticed it because he's not looking at him, but he will do in a second, I hope. There he is. So Bortolami, I wonder what he's saying here. They're about 22 kilometers from the finish. It's about now that they're going to have to start thinking about which one's going to win the race. Or will they have a free-for-all and allow an open sprint? I don't think so somehow, because Johan Museu is the nearest to Belgium. He's a Belgian, rather nearest countryman to France. He also knows that he's done a lot of work this year to make sure that other teammates have had their big day. You remember in Gent-Wevelgem, he was a long way in the lead there. He got caught, and unselfishly he led out his teammate Tom Steels for victory. We haven't seen Tom Steels today. 20 kilometers to go. Into sector 3. Just 3 more sectors of pavé now. Confin-en-Pervève on the Rue de Bouen. 1.8 kilometers. This is a little sector of pavé which is always very bad. And had this been a group of non-teammates, it would be a stretch of pavé where we could expect an attack. Confin-en-Pervève, and in fact they want the motorbikes out the way because they can't see. And I think that's a fair comment, but the motorcycles are all being held up. The photographer's trying to get the shot of the race. Because in these conditions, of course, any one of them could flat straight away, and then the cameraman will be very upset if they never got the shot. But what they probably don't realize is they could well cause an accident with the dust completely obscuring the vision of these 3 riders. Most unpleasant conditions, but then nobody ever said that Paris-Roubaix was a pleasant race to ride. Round another tight corner, taken very cautiously by Big Johan. Bortolami dropping back behind Johan. Well, he's on the other side of the pavé. No, he isn't. He moved across. Zanini, who really hates these cobblestones, he'll be delighted he's found some grass to ride on. Being followed by Ballerini. I wonder if Ballerini will try to get rid of Zanini on the next stretch of cobbles. And we're off sector 4, no, sector 3 it was, wasn't it? We're off that sector now. 2 sectors still to come, but they're in 2 little pieces actually. It's rather cool to say only 2 sectors to come. Officially that's correct, but in fact there are 4 sectors of cobbles still to come. Bortolami still looking very good. Sharp left, and I think it's followed by a right-hand turn. The routes of Paris-Roubaix are almost impossible to find unless it's arrowed up because they use so many small roads. But the arrows do go out very early on because they know that the teams come here to train, and the only way they would know where they were going is by following those yellow arrows on the roadside. So the arrows are out very early on for Paris-Roubaix. And so if you're ever planning on coming over and seeing this race for yourself, and it's well worth doing, by the way, come over a few days early, bring your bike, and have a little ride on some sections of the course and just see how it is. And believe me, you will not believe that these great bike riders can ride over these cobblestones for so long. The race today will take them just around about 6 hours. More than 50 kilometers, more than 31 miles of cobblestones. And these 3 riders, well, I don't think they're going to be caught now. And if they are, it's only going to be by Ballerini and Zanini, because the same riders are chasing behind, and the same riders have shown us they haven't got the power to get across this gap. And still, we'd like the motorbikes further on. The riders themselves prepared to go quicker than the motorbikes, but they also want to see those cobblestones and they want to see the corners for themselves. And they'd like to do it without feeling as though they're riding in a visibility reduced to just about 10 meters at times. This incredible crowd, you can hear them shouting, they're enjoying what they're seeing, they know exactly what's coming at them as always, because they have their pocket radios or their car radios. And in these days of modern technology, of course, they also have their handheld television sets. This has been a superb demonstration, there's no doubt about that. A lot of people won't like what they're seeing. A team just embarrassing the top names in the world in Paris-Roubaix like this. But you can't take anything away from Mappé. They came here with a plan. They launched it very early on. Museo has been in the thick of the action all day. He made sure in the kill that his big strong teammates were with him. There's no doubt Taffy and Bortolami are the very best. And if Ballerini had been here, well, who would have chased? Zanini wouldn't have been there on his own for sure. But at least he would have seen the cobblestones. And still that one photographer insists on waiting for the either the crash or the puncture that will get in the front page of the newspapers tomorrow. Well, I'm sure it's not Graham Watson, the English photographer, who is one of the very best in the world and has the knack of being in the right place at the right time, but he never annoys the riders. There's a great rapport with the bike riders, Graham Watson. They know him well. One of the few photographers this year, by the way, who was picked by the organisation to follow the race on the Poggio mountain, because they've reduced all the vehicles up there. And Graham was one of those selected. Very privileged indeed he was to be in the pole position on the Poggio mountain in Milan-San Remo. Now Zanini, I have to smile because Zanini is now showing the way on the cobblestones here, and it's Ballerini who lies off, but for a different reason. He can't take Zanini any closer, he feels, obviously, to the three front runners. He's done enough to keep them away from the chasers. Pace has slowed a little bit. It might be an illusion, but it looks to me as though it has slowed down a little bit at the front here. And a lot more work being done now by Johan Museu. And Bortolami in the centre, Taffy at the back. Perhaps Johan feeling that over these last few stretches of Pavé, which are notorious ones, he wants to lead the way. And he may have told the team, you know, it's for me today. Two Italians, I would think, would have to take his orders, because he is the team leader. But what a decision. For my money, the fairest thing would be to sprint it out on the track and may the best man win, and they'd all share the prize money anyway, because to ask two riders in this group to lose Paris Roubaix after all of this does seem very unfair. But they are professional bike riders. Apart from the win, they will think of the team and their sponsors. That's the unfortunate side of professional sport in any degree, I would think. But without, of course, the backing of the pro sponsors, there wouldn't be a Paris Roubaix these days. The company La Redoute, same name, by the way, as that notorious climb in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, is a mail order company, a big store which is based in Roubaix, and they sponsor in a big way Paris Roubaix and have been responsible with the organisation of lifting this event up into modern times. As far as the prize money goes, I said earlier, around about $1,000 was all you won in Paris Roubaix up until 1986, and then it shot up to around 25,000. There's a hand up, and Museo's hand is out. Now, is it a puncture or is it a drink? He's not showing absolute panic at this point, but he's gone down onto the bottom of the handlebars there, maybe to control his bike, and I'm wondering if he has got a flat tyre. Well, time will tell. The other two aren't too concerned. Out goes a banana, and up comes the teammate. Up comes the team manager, Patrick Lefebvre. And this, in fact, is Bortolami here, Lefebvre's talking to. So maybe it was just a call for the team car. You know, he wants another word. Well, he's not going to have one. So we're going back to the second group, and still Zanini is leading the charge over this little sector of Pavé. Ballerini bouncing his way through. These are the chasers still being led by Schmil. This man is always in no man's land, followed by Ekimov, Francis Moreau, Brian Holm, and I guess the other man must be Marco Milesi. He is. It is. Well, those three are on the same sector of Pavé, but they're a little bit behind the two chasers, while the three leaders are clear of it and moving inch by inch, kilometre by kilometre, towards what will be a stunning result for the team in Paris Roubaix. So many cars in behind now, it indicates that the lead has gone up. The last check we had, it was 1 minute and 54 seconds. And still the crowds line the roads of Paris-Roubaix. Zanini now appears to be doing all of the work in the chase, and Ballerini has shut off. And that could be a sign. He will try to get rid of Zanini on the last couple of stretches of pavé, which, the way we're shaping up now, would give Mappé the first 4 places. Unbelievable. There are 3 leaders again. Museo looking across at Bortolami, having a little chat. I'd like to know what they're saying, because a little wave of acknowledgement there to Museo by Bortolami. And I just wonder if Johan, because he's gone back for another word there, as if Johan is saying, it's me to win. Two minutes at 15 seconds now, and that is the official time gap coming in for these 3. So it's all over as far as the chase is concerned. And Ballerini may as well give Zanini a helping hand, because they're not going to catch these 3 now. These 3 riders have got Paris-Roubaix. They've done it the hard way. They went early. It's the only way you get a whole team away, is to start attacking right from the gun. There'll be far too many vigilant riders coming towards the end. Here's Ballerini, who's definitely stopped helping at all now. There must have been an order come up from Patrick Lefevre to stop assisting Zanini. And Zanini, happy with his lot, continues just ride himself. So he's had a tough day. In fact, Ballerini apparently has punctured 3 times today. So that certainly wasn't his Paris-Roubaix, was it? It took him out of that leading quartet as it was at the time, and it would have been a real delight to see Ballerini in that breakaway group, and I wonder what would have happened then. Last year's winner, Museo, the obvious choice for victory. And I wonder what the decision would have been if Ballerini had been up there. As far as we know, they have discussed what's going to happen at the finish, but we don't know what they've said. This is that little group of 5, still the same, led by Moreau, who's taking a drink. Then Schmil comes through, followed by Ekimov. And then Brian Holm, and sitting at the back and seemingly not doing anything now, Marco Milesi. And Ekimov down there, having won the 3 days of the Panna in April and finished 4th in the Tour of Flanders. 10 kilometres to go, Museo on the front. And he seems to be saying something to Taffy here, shouting at him. Well, I don't think Taffy can be accused of not working too hard in this breakaway, and Taffy looks at him rather quizzically. But now perhaps a little bit of animosity creeping into this breakaway. The 2 Italians and a Belgian. Bortolami gets on with the job in hand, and Museo doesn't even glance at Andrea Taffy rather there. He just goes through and carries on with the work. Now, although he's not here, we asked Lance Armstrong what he thought of Johan Museo.
He's the best. I mean, certainly when it comes to races like this and one-day races, World Cup races, he's just a classy guy, and unlike a guy like Jalabert, who seems to have changed with his success, Museo is the same guy. He's always respectful, always friendly, always has a nice thing to say. And you see the way he operates within his team, and I have a lot of respect for him. If I had to pick a career that I would like to, to somewhat model mine after, his would be good enough.
Yes, indeed, and Johan Museo is equally extremely popular with the Belgian people. And they'll be cheering these pictures on television but we don't understand what this incident was unless he was emphasizing to Taffy that he is going to win the race and that you are going to be second or third. And that seems to me what is actually going on here. And I don't know if Taffy was arguing with that decision, but we'll find out when we get down to Roubaix and the Velodrome. But the three of them are getting back onto terms again. Taffy doesn't seem quite as enthusiastic now. He's sitting at the back there. And Bortolami, though, is driving this group along. And Taffy dropping back to the team car here. And maybe he's querying whatever was said there by Museo, and the two officials of the team are out of the car, including Patrick Lefebvre, and confirming what the situation is. We don't know what they've said, of course, but I'm quite sure the discussion is who is actually going to win this race in Roubaix, and the odds are they're going to have Museo win it. And Taffy is speaking again to Museo, and now is he getting on with the job in hand? Intrigue upon intrigue, a situation we could never have foreseen in Paris Roubaix. 3 riders on the same team. The cruelty is that 2 of them have to lose. The final sector of Pavé, it's in double dose as we head now towards the finish. We're now in the sector of Pavé at M. And Taffy has gone back into full train. So whatever has been said has been forgotten, and they're getting on now with handling Paris-Roubaix among themselves. We've just got this little section of Pavé, another little section of Pavé, and then we charge down into Roubaix and into the Velodrome. There's no chance now that anybody's going to come back to them. A nice tight left-hander, but they've stayed persistently on the smoother surface as Taffy is now getting on with it. Let's have a little look around that corner again here. Just watch this. And again, you see Museo went a little bit far over to the left, but I think what he spotted was the smoother road to the right, and he decided to dive for it. And the hand is up of Museo. And the others, well, Bortolami, hey, Museo has a flat tyre. Bortolami looked round briefly. Now we'll find out, because the 2 Italians, are they going to go or are they going to wait? Museo has given them the chance. They're looking at each other. Bortolami has said something to Taffy. The pressure has gone off. We're looking here. They have an advantage of around about 2 minutes, slightly less over Ballerini. Johan Museo has a flat tyre again. Taffy, well, it might be just my imagination, but I can feel that Taffy wants to race. But Museo had a good change and he's straight back in the saddle. The photographer has the picture he's waited for ages, and now Museo is going to have to get back up to the 2 leaders. Tremendous amount of strength still in Johan Museo because he's coming back so rapidly. The other 2 riders on opposite sides of the Pavé are awaiting their man. Well, that's stitched it up. We all know what's going on now. Museo is to win Paris-Roubaix. It's as simple as that. He now is waiting. They are both now waiting. Taffy looks over his shoulder, and Bortolami. What a bizarre situation. 2 Italians on an Italian team waiting for a Belgium to win the biggest classic of them all. Well, I feel unable to argue the case for any of them because they're in a situation we have never seen before. Taffy wants advice now, unless he's punctured again. Or is it Bortolami? Bortolami. I think he probably wants confirmation of what is going on behind. But this is an amazing discussion, I think, going on once more about who is going to win the race. They have now waited for Museo. They could have left him, although, you know, in fairness, Museo is so strong, he could well have caught up again because that was a great wheel change he got. And we can't deny it. Whoever wins Paris-Roubaix deserves it today from one of these 3, that's for sure. Well, on these days of close-up television, we are seeing a terrific drama unfold here. This has been a marvellous Paris-Roubaix. Not one I'd like to see next year, of course, commentating on the same three riders for a couple of hours. But by the same token, something different had to happen after 100 years of Paris-Roubaix, and that's why this is going to be remembered for very special reasons. Musier's never, ever won Paris-Roubaix, of course, won the big classics missing, and still the two Italians are having to convince one another. I think Bortolami is having to convince Andrea Tafi that they're going to give this race to Johan Museeuw. Tafi, the workhorse who never has, because he's deserved a big win. It hasn't come his way. I remember him winning a couple of stages of the old Tour of America down there when it went across from Florida to Venezuela. That's when we first heard of him. Now he's become a super domestique with a capital S for super. Had situations been different, there's no doubt in my mind Museeuw would have helped Tafi win it. But today the team captain is in a position to win Paris-Roubaix, and I think he's going to exert the 3 pips on his epaulets. The team time trial that has ended all team time trials. It has been absolutely superb, and Tafi again doing more than his turn. Bortolami sits in the middle waiting to do his turn. Wow, that was a bit dangerous, but they spotted it. Bortolami going the other side of it, all back together again, and still Tafi with the big gears turning. Museeuw coming from the back to the front. Well, if he has been given the green light to win now, he doesn't have to worry about saving any energy. He can do what he likes and work as hard as he feels likes. Heading in towards the finish now at Roubaix. The cobbles are all behind us. And they will be all behind the chasing group too as well soon. This is the 3rd group on the road, as we know, because Ballerini and Zanini are ahead. These 5 have opted to stay together, and they seem to have all levelled out as far as effort goes. They'll be feeling a little bit demoralised too. 4 Mappes and a Gavis rider in front. Francis Moreau, Ekimov, Brian Home. And the boys in blue and white. Hand is up again. More advice required for the leaders. And the team car, is he going to join Bortolami? A bit difficult just at the minute, but Bortolami would like to have words again. It's probably something like, are you sure we should let Museeuw win? Why can't we sprint it out? I doubt it, really. Because Bortolami, frankly, has been a powerhouse today. He's been absolutely superb. And it's only because of his fine riding that this breakaway has stayed away. I just really do not know quite what they're saying here, but there's obviously a little bit of animosity crept into the situation. I think they've been told they've got to let Museeuw win, and they're not terribly over-enamoured by it. Surely the fairest result, when you've got these 3 riders all contributing equally to the pace, it should be a free-for-all from the minute they come to the velodrome. That, to me, surely is the fairest way to decide a race when every one of them deserves to win it. But I don't think all is fair in love and war today. And these 2 Italians, I think, are making the pace purely for Johan Museeuw. Heading down towards the last couple of kilometres. In fact, the last kilometre, because we'll soon be swinging into that central reservation there, which they've made ready for the arrival of Paris-Roubaix for the first time before they swing across this road into the velodrome. Interesting chicane they've put in. We're going to see it in a second. The two Italians carrying a Belgian towards the Roubaix velodrome. It's around about 3 kilometers to go now. The first winner of Paris-Roubaix in 1896, 100 years ago, was Joseph Fischer of Germany. The Germans have never won it since. He was paced to a 26-second victory over a Danish rider, Meyer, and Maurice Guérin of France. And if you think you recognize the name Guérin, you do, because he won the first ever Tour de France in 1903. And 100 years on, we are being treated to the most extraordinary exhibition of pacemaking by 3 riders from the same team who seem to have fallen out in the last couple of kilometers because they can't decide who should win now, having ripped the field apart and made this a very personal affair. Bortolami looks across. Taffy goes through. The two Italians carrying the Belgian Museo. This is the long straight road to the right turn into the velodrome. We'll certainly make a left flick and go down the middle of it through the trees there. Here it is. Interesting. And this is what the crowd are seeing at the finishing line. Let's go to Paul Sherwen.
Well, Phil, those 3 riders now are coming onto the last section of cobblestones that they will face today. But what a magnificent final to the centenary Paris-Roubaix. 3 riders from the same team at the head of affairs. I have never seen that in a World Cup race or a race of this standing. Johan Museeuw, Gianluca Bortolami, Andrea Taffy. In a few moments' time, they're going to come onto the track behind me, and we will very soon know who is going to be the winner of the 100th Paris-Roubaix. It will be magnificent. The crowd are going to go crazy here because these riders have done a wonderful race. You know, Johan Museeuw should be the favourite rider when they come round here in a short while. Bortolami has been absolutely magnificent, but the crowd now are waiting for these last few moments for the riders to come in, and you can hear the crowd rising to the occasion. Just behind me now, we've got those leaders, Phil, onto the track there. Bortolami is in first place, Johan Museeuw is in second. Phil, for the final lap, it's over to you.
Paul, thank you very much. And here we are on the velodrome. Look at the crowd as they're bringing round these 3 riders now. Museeuw looks over his shoulder. Bortolami and Taffy punches the air. He looks very happy now, Andrea Taffy. They're enjoying this moment. They're all waving to the crowd. And in fact, are they going to allow Museeuw to win, or are they going to sprint it? But at the moment, they're allowing Museeuw to encircle the velodrome in the lead. As they come round towards the end of the race, Museeuw looks at them both as if he doesn't trust them completely at 250 meters. They're all waving at the crowd here. Museeuw is in the lead, and they've conceded this race to Johan Museeuw. And Johan Museeuw is going to win his first Paris-Roubaix. Bortolami is behind him, and Andrea Taffy. That looks like the pecking order. The 2 Italians, 2-arm salute. Museeuw points to his team and says to the crowd, they did it for me. Johan Museeuw has won Paris-Roubaix in this most extraordinary exhibition of team riding. The 2 Italians congratulate one another here, and I think they're just about holding Bortolami upright on the inside track there, and Taffy also. Now we go back to the race for 4th place. Are we going to see a 1, 2, 3, 4 for Mappé? Well, Ballerini, who has won this race, had a 2nd and 3rd. Surely now is not going to take away a fine ride by Stefano Zanini, who over these last kilometers has made all of the running. And it might well be a gesture from Mappé and from Ballerini here to allow Zanini to go on and take the 4th place finish. The man who hated the cobbles but diced with them, beat them, and has now come to the sprint for 4th place. Now round the straight again. It's 1 3/4 circuit of the velodrome. They get one shot at the finishing line, then they come round and they hit it for real. And Zanini is waiting for the move by Ballerini. He keeps looking to his right. That's why he's riding down on the Côte d'Azur. And out comes Ballerini. And it looks as though Ballerini is going to go for 1, 2, 3, 4 for Mappé. A little clash of shoulders there. Zanini's a bit of a tracky as he pushes off Ballerini. And he holds his line on the inside and now goes again. It's not track rules. This is Paris-Roubaix rules. Zanini gets 4th place. Ballerini gets 5th. So Zanini gets the 4th place finish and deserved it. Franco Ballerini, what would he have done had he not had all of those punctures today? A little tap on the thigh. Well done, Stefano, he says. a gentleman to the end. Now we come to the race. And this is between Francis Moreau and Marco Milesi. Milesi is leading it out. This is for 6th place, and Marco Milesi is leading it out here. Schmill is going to try and take him. Brian Holm is making a run too for German Telecom. But on the line, Schmill will get it. So Andre Schmill gets 6th place, a former winner. Holm is 7th, Ekimov is 8th. Francis Moreau gets 9th, Milesi is 10th. This is Tristan Hoffman and Wilfred Peters, another Mappe man, as what's left of the main field has come in on their shoulder as well. They've got a lap and 3/4 to go. Peters is going to have a go at Tristan Hoffman of TBM, and it looks as though Peters will get 11th place, Hoffman will get 12th, and the rest will go round for another lap. What an amazing Paris Roubaix. So Wilfred Peters gets 11th, and Hoffman gets 12th. And he saw who was on the podium off to his left there, and that was the Mappe boys en masse. Now we've got the sprint here, which will be for 13th place here, and it's a late jump from the Refin rider, Mauro Bettin, and Bettin is well clear of the race, and he's going to get the place here. So it's a good ride by Mauro Bettin, a very good finish for him as well, 13th place overall. Frankie Andreu and the other Motorola rider in this breakaway will be Kaspers Ozers as well for Motorola. So they haven't had a great day, but it's been a marvellous race for every other person in it, especially if you're on Team Mappe. And there on the grass is Vyacheslav Yekimov, having to settle for 8th this year. He got 4th a year ago. Brian Holm, who had a marvellous race, finishing 7th, and looks as though he's refound himself once again. This is Servaes Knaven, the champion of Holland. Let's go to Paul Sherwen, who is now with Frankie Andreu, who finished 24th.
Frankie, you've just come back from injury and you've come straight through to the finish of this Paris Roubaix. It's a hell of a race.
Yeah, it's a hell of a race, all right. I think today must have been the fastest Roubaix ever. From the gun, it was a crosswind battle, and it was just, we were flying, you know, riding in the ditches and going along. It was a hard race beginning to end. There was no easy part in the beginning because it was always having to fight for position, and at the end, our team rode good. We just missed out on that, you know, those top first 10 guys are just a level above us. But other than that, me, George, Bruno, Casper, Sean were all active in the race, but, you know, we weren't there at the end.
Frankie, it's a mad race. Why do you keep coming back?
I don't know. In the middle of it, I had a bad section. I was like, man, I don't know why I do this race, but I love it. I mean, coming into this velodrome is the greatest moment, you know, hearing all the people and the announcer and everything like that is fantastic. It's a special race. You do 110 races on the road with the hills, you know, all the same stuff. This race is different like Flanders. It takes a special character, a special rider, and, you know, sure, you have 5 or 6 that say they hate it, it's not a real race, but then look at the other 150 who love the race and come here every year, so I like it.
One final question. What about Johan Museo and his Mappe team today?
Well, I haven't seen it. I got to watch it on TV yet, but it sounds pretty impressive. Like I said, those guys are a level above us, and I mean, the strongest guys won, I guess, you know, so congratulations to them, and we'll have to see what happens at Liège, you know, when we got some of our best guys back.
What about next year?
I'll be back, oh yeah.
I bet he will be. And Sean Yates, who rode his final Paris-Roubaix, and he finished indeed in 45th position today. And this is the situation as the 3 riders who wrote themselves into the legends of the 100th year of Paris-Roubaix, as Johan Museo and his 2 Italian teammates, Bortolami, who has officially placed 2nd, Taffy officially 3rd, all 3 winners today of Paris-Roubaix in most people's books, I think. And on the podium, 3 members of the same team, never seen before. I wonder if indeed it will ever be seen again. And Johan Museo all smiles and appreciates the work done by his 2 Italian teammates. Whatever happened out on the road, now totally forgotten, as I join up with Johan Museo. Okay. Johan, we said at the start, you were saying that if you came to the finish with other members of your team, you would have a discussion and decide what to do. What happened in the end between you and the other two?
It's very normally when you with 3 riders from the same team, you must make the decision who's win.
Yeah.
But today I'm the leader, so we make the decision that I win, because I work a lot for the team last year and also this year, and today they give me something back, so I'm very happy to win.
But it was an incredible exploit by the team, because you could have had 4 men if Ballerini had not punctured.
Yes, 4. Yes, but I have also 2 times a puncher, so you need a little bit of lucky, and today I have lucky. Last week in the Tour of Flanders, I have not lucky. Today I have lucky, and I win Paris Roubaix. So that's sport. That's life.
So 100 years on, this great race still throws up the surprises. 100 years on, and never before has 3 riders on the same team crossed the line together. Johan Museeuw is now the new leader of the World Cup, a trophy he won 1 year ago. He wanted this classic win, and the team made sure he got it. But really, the victory went to all 3 riders. And you know, if Franco Ballerini hadn't punctured, they would have certainly have taken the top 4 places on the 100th year of Paris Roubaix. Until the next time we meet, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye.